Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Mystery. Welcome to my first art educational video. I'm going to show you how to create something like this today, inspired by the French artist Henri Matisse, this dude. The video is aimed for children 7 years and above, just because there's cutting skills involved. But if you've got younger children, then I'm sure with a little bit of adult help they will still be able to produce some beautiful pieces of artwork. I can't wait to see what you create, so please do share them with me on either of my social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, and use the hashtag Mrs. Mystery Makes. Throughout the video there'll be places where you can pause and take some stock and take your time. You know, there's no rush. You can go through this as fast or as slow as you want to. Just enjoy the process. Right at the end of the video there are some learning tips and educational bits and pieces, which I hope some of you will find useful. So let's get started. So this is what we are going to create today. This is my collage inspired by Henri Matisse. You'll see that if we look at some of Henri Matisse's work, he uses quite organic shapes that look a little bit like plants and seaweed. We would describe his work as abstract art because it doesn't look like anything in particular. Instead, it's more of a collection of shapes and colours that are arranged in a composition to make quite interesting and unusual pieces of artwork. Some people would describe his work as quite childlike, but I think they're quite interesting, and I really like his use of colour and how the colours make me feel. So what might be quite nice for you is to choose colours that make you feel a certain way. Towards the end of his career he started to get quite ill and was unable to paint as energetically as he would have used to have done. So what he ended up doing was creating huge collages made from these massive painted pieces of paper, sat in either his bed or in his wheelchair. When you look at these images, you don't think that they are actually this big, but some of them are humongous. And I just think it's quite inspiring to be, quite ill and pretty much, at death's door and still be creating pieces of artwork that are interesting, engaging, that have so much emotion in them through the colours that he's using. That in the times that he was quite dark and feeling quite miserable, that he would create really bright, vibrant pieces of work. So what you are going to do is create a collage inspired by some of the colours and shapes that Matisse has used. So let's get started. So to create your collage, I'm going to show you what you need. A sheet of A4 paper to stick your collage onto. A few sheets of scrap paper. I'm just using some copier paper here, some printer paper. A small selection of coloured paper or card. This is not essential, but if you have some paints to hand, a paintbrush and some water, scissors, a glue stick and a pencil. So if you are using paint and you are going to paint up some of your own paper, you need to do that step first. So I'm using watercolour paints here, but you can use poster paint or whatever paint you might have. If you're using poster paint, just water it down in a tub or a tray or a paper plate, just to make it a little bit easier to use and you don't use up too much. Because you're using printer paper, you don't need to use too much water. You'll find that the printer paper soaks up all that paint really quickly and it becomes really flimsy, so just be mindful of that. You don't need to paint all the way up to the edges either. And if you wanted to be more inventive, you could blend colours, but you can paint as many sheets of paper as you need. We're only using small pieces because it's only a small collage. So what you're going to do is just let this dry for a little while whilst you work on some other things. So now you're ready to cut out your shapes. So you need a piece of paper that you are going to stick onto the bits of coloured paper that you've collected, your painted paper, the pair of scissors, and if you feel like you need to, then the pencil to draw your shapes on first. So a lot of Matisse's work is using different types of shape. Now, the simplest shapes that you can use are just using your scissors to cut out some simple rectangles and squares that you might want to use. I'm not thinking about my layout just yet, I'm just thinking about different shapes that I could use. And when you are cutting out more organic shapes, you need to be really mindful of how you cut things out. Now, if you watch really carefully, I'm cutting a shape out of this turquoisey paper, and I'm not moving the hand that has got the scissors in, I'm moving this hand to pivot where I want my scissors to go. Now, I've not drawn this shape out because you don't need to be too particular with it at all, but what you'll find here now is that you have the shape that you've cut out and this shape here, which is the negative space of that shape, and both of those pieces could be used in your collage to make it look interesting, to have different types of colours and thinking about backgrounds and foregrounds and things like that. So, you know, keep the bits that you also cut out because you might find that they're quite interesting to use as well. You might want to include some curved shapes. You might also want these kinds of shapes. You might even decide to use some nice straight lines. If you decide that you are going to draw the shape first, say for example on this painted piece of paper, draw it on the back of the page first, which then makes it easier. Again, I'm pivoting. If you need help with this task, you can get an adult to help you. If you draw on the shapes first, maybe they can help you cut them out. But remember to use this hand to keep moving. You need your A4 sheet of paper, you need all the pieces that you've cut. I've got a few extra here that I've cut out as well. And we're going to now think about composition, okay? Now composition is your layout of your piece, so it's entirely up to you what you choose to do and how you choose to stick these things down. but it's quite nice to have a think about positions and colours, and maybe not trying to put colours next to each other, maybe trying to put a contrast colour next to something else. So spend a little bit of time playing around. With your different shapes. Once you're happy with your composition, you're ready to start sticking it down. I'm going to show you a particular technique that I use to stick intricate and delicate shapes down with, so I hope that helps you out a little bit. You will have noticed that I started again, I moved things around, I was really thinking about which pieces go underneath and which pieces go on top. So really kind of consider your composition, because it's a really important part of art and design practice. You know, thinking about your layout. I've kept quite a nice amount of white around it, which balances out all of those bright colours really well, and it would look really nice framed if it's got a nice kind of space around it as well. So that's the reason why I've left that white space. We're ready to start sticking down now. So you need a couple of pieces of scrap paper and your glue stick. We're going to use the scrap paper so we don't get sticky fingerprints all over the work, and I use this technique, I teach this technique all the time to all my students regardless of their age, because I think it's really important when you've spent so much time producing something really nice that you don't have big glue stains all over it. I want you to work in small sections, so you remember where bits and pieces are going. So I'm going to start with this section here. I'm going to take this piece, which is quite fragile. I'm going to place it down onto a spare piece of scrap paper. Don't squish your glue stick too far up. And then using the glue stick just on the outside edges, dragging into the middle because it's quite a delicate shape. Pick it up with the glue stick and then place it down where it needs to go. Don't stick it down with your hands because you might have glue already on those fingers, so get that extra piece of scrap paper, place it on top and press it down nice and firmly. Any extra bits of glue that squish out of the edges, they'll stick to that piece of paper so they don't stick to your actual work. So there you go, that's nice and flat. I'll do these two pieces. I'm going to move this to one side so I can do the blue one because it's behind it. Again, straight onto the scrap paper. And you do the rest in exactly the same way. Well, this is perfect because I've just broken this piece here. And what you can do, I mean, it's not the end of the world if a piece breaks, because you can still attach it on. And you're not going to really see it, and if you can see it, well, all you need to do is cut out something else to cover it up. There, no one's gonna know. So there you go, it's done. A very simple Henri Matisse inspired collage using lots of lovely painted paper or coloured paper. So well done guys, you've done it. You should have hopefully created a Matisse inspired collage. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you've created, so please don't forget to send them to me using the social media handles and using the hashtag Mrs. Mystery Makes. If you continue watching this video, there are some differentiation strategies, keywords, some information on colour theory and colour and emotions that you can use to extend the learning of this task. Tune in next week for another video. I hope you enjoyed it guys. Bye!